What would you do if a homeless boy touched your comatose daughter and suddenly, after 3 silent years, she cried? That's exactly what happened. One frozen morning in Chicago, when a starving street kid named Caleb Rivers stumbled into a hospital and accidentally stepped into a room he was never meant to find. Inside, Ava Whitmore, daughter of billionaire Graham Whitmore, lay motionless, trapped in a coma since a tragic accident. But when Caleb reached out and touched her hand, the machines went wild and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Was it a coincidence or something much deeper? No one could explain it, not the doctors, not the nurses, and especially not Graham, who couldn't understand why this boy, dirt-streaked and limping, had the same crescent-shaped scar as his daughter. But that moment sparked a chain of revelations: stolen babies, a buried twin, a billion-dollar cover-up, and a miracle no one saw coming. Before the truth would set them free, it would nearly destroy everything. Stay with us. What begins with a single touch will unravel one of the most emotional, shocking, and redemptive stories you'll ever hear. You won't believe what happens next. Caleb Rivers hadn't tasted real food in 3 days, and the hunger tore at his stomach like broken glass. Dawn still hid behind Chicago's skyline, the streets slick with last night's sleet, when he spotted the bakery on Halsted. The display window glowed in inviting amber. Inside, racks of fresh loaves steamed beneath hanging lamps. Caleb pressed a palm against the glass, letting its warmth fight the chill that clawed through his threadbare sweatshirt. He knew the routine: the usual baker, Mr. Wilson, would sometimes slip him a stale roll. But this morning, a different man in a spotless apron stalked the counter, eyes sharp as ice picks. Caleb felt danger before it spoke. He scanned the alley for escape routes, inhaled the buttery air, and darted through the back door the moment a delivery truck rumbled past. One heartbeat, two. He seized the nearest loaf. A shout erupted, "Hey, kid!" and heavy boots pounded after him. Caleb sprinted into the pre-dawn gloom, bare feet slapping frozen pavement. Sirens wailed blocks away. Guard dogs barked behind chain-link fences. He cut across an icy crosswalk, leapt a puddle shimmering with oil, and nearly laughed with triumph until his foot found a jagged pothole. Pain exploded up his shin. He crashed hard, the loaf skidding from his grasp and tumbling into a gutter, vanishing beneath filthy runoff. Caleb tasted copper and asphalt. His knee gushed crimson that steamed in the cold. Footsteps closed in. He braced to run again but couldn't stand. Then a new voice sliced through the commotion, soft, urgent, unmistakably kind. "Easy, honey. Don't move that leg." A woman knelt, white uniform gleaming beneath a flickering street lamp. Nurse Maggie Hartley's ponytail was streaked with gray, but her eyes blazed with a fire Caleb hadn't seen in years, maybe ever. She waved off the furious baker and the security guard beside him. "I work at Mercy General 2 blocks over. I'll handle this." Caleb tried to jerk free. "I'm fine." "Really?" "You're bleeding through the bone," she replied, already pressing gauze against the wound. "Come on." Fear told Caleb to run, yet Maggie's steadiness anchored him. Minutes later, he was inside Mercy General's fluorescent labyrinth, white floors, shining monitors, beeping antiseptic biting at his nostrils. Maggie cleaned the gash, wrapped it, and handed him a turkey sandwich she'd stashed for a missed lunch break. He devoured it so fast he almost choked. "I'll grab the paperwork," she said. "Promise me you'll stay put for 10 minutes. Caleb nodded, but the hospital buzzed like a beehive. Too many voices, too many questions he couldn't answer. He limped into the corridor, drawn by quiet like a moth to darkness. Up a stairwell, left then right, until he found a door, half-open room. Lights, dim, machines blinking in slow rhythm. On the bed lay a girl, maybe 8, skin pale as porcelain chestnut hair, fanned over snow-white pillows. Tubes sprouted from her like glass vines. The placard read, "Ava Whitmore." Caleb's breath caught. She looked eerily like the imaginary friend he whispered to each night to ward off the loneliness. Against every instinct, he inched closer, mesmerized. Her hand lay limp atop the sheet. He reached out, fingertips trembling, and brushed her knuckles. The heart monitor stuttered. A gentle beep became a frantic alarm, lines jumping across the screen like lightning. Caleb yanked his hand back, panic clawing his throat. The door slammed open. Doctors in green scrubs flooded the room. What happened? Flatline. No heart rate spiking, amid the blur stepped a tall man in a tailored charcoal suit, salt and pepper hair, immaculate cufflinks catching the light. Graham Whitmore, Chicago's steel magnate turned philanthropist, froze when he saw the ragged boy by his daughter's bedside. For a moment, the world held its breath. Then Graham's gaze drifted to Caleb's torn sweatshirt, where a crescent-shaped scar peeked through a hole in the fabric. His jaw slackened, the same arc etched on Ava's shoulder since infancy. Coincidence screamed impossible. Recognition or something like it flickered in his steel-gray eyes, replaced by a dawning horror. What if the universe had just delivered a secret he never knew existed? Security rushed forward, but Graham lifted a hand. "No one touches him," Dr. Thomas Rayner whispered. "Sir, he's a street kid." "He shouldn't. I said no one." Graham repeated, never breaking eye contact with Caleb. "Son, what's your name?" Caleb darted a glance toward the hallway. "Caleb. Just Caleb." Maggie appeared behind the crowd, wide-eyed. "He's hurt. Let me take him to imaging." Graham knelt, his $1,000 suit creasing on spotless linoleum. "Caleb, how did you get that scar?" The boy's mind raced. He barely remembered life before the streets, only that he'd always had the mark. I don't know. It's always been there." Before Graham could ask more, a tech shouted, "Sir, the EKG is stabilizing, but her pulse is stronger than we've seen in 3 years." Doctors leaned over Ava, adjusting IVs, scanning vitals, marveling at the anomaly. Graham's heartbeat thundered in his ears. 3 years of coma, countless specialists, and now one accidental touch had sparked life. Somewhere in the overhead grid, a security camera's red light blinked off. Unseen fingers on a remote feed deleted the last 20 minutes of footage, severing evidence like cutting a vein. Downstairs, a hushed voice dialed a burner phone. "We have a problem." The boy made contact. Back in the room, Maggie guided Caleb toward a wheelchair. He clung to the doorway, staring at Ava as though tethered by invisible thread. Her eyelids fluttered, but stayed shut. Tears pricked his eyes. He didn't understand why she mattered, only that she did. Sirens outside wailed again, closer this time. Maggie's phone vibrated with an alert: traffic accident at the corner of Halsted and 14th. A nurse struck by a sedan matching hospital security colors. She swallowed, shoving terror deep, and steered Caleb down the hall. Graham watched them go, chest heaving with questions that felt like betrayal to his own memories. In radiology, under the hum of fluorescent lights, Caleb lay silent, while scanners whirred around him. Maggie squeezed his hand. "You're safe, okay? I won't let anyone hurt you." Down the corridor, Graham ordered Dr. Rayner run a full DNA panel on that boy quietly, and lock down every birth record from July 7 years ago. "If someone tampered with my family, I'll know by dawn." Outside, dawn finally bled through skyscrapers, staining windows gold. Snowflakes drifted past Mercy General's 6th-floor windows, as if the city itself held its breath. Caleb sat upright, staring through the glass at a horizon that looked less like freedom and more like the edge of a mystery he'd never asked to solve. He didn't see the man in a maintenance uniform slip a flash drive into his pocket and disappear down a stairwell. Camera feed secured and proof erased. Nor did he hear the muffled conversation in a black SUV idling across the street. If Whitmore learns the boy's identity, the entire Langston operation collapses. Do what you must. But Caleb did feel something new, a pulse of warmth in his chest, faint yet unwavering, as though a piece long missing had sparked awake at the touch of a sleeping girl. And somewhere behind him, on a hospital bed, bathed in morning light, Ava Whitmore's fingers twitched again. Thank you for staying with us through this intense opening chapter. We're sorry to interrupt the story, but we'd love to hear from you. If you witnessed a stranger's touch jolting a comatose patient back to life, would you believe in coincidence or destiny? Do you think Caleb's scar is mere chance or the key to a hidden conspiracy waiting to explode? Right now, dawn barely had time to settle over Chicago before the hospital's corridors began vibrating with whispers. Who was that street kid? Why did the Whitmore girl's vitals spike the instant he touched her? One answer could be found inside a locked pathology lab where Graham Whitmore paced like a caged wolf, eyes fixed on a printer that was taking far too long to spit out its verdict. Caleb Rivers didn't know any of that. He'd slipped back to Ava's bedside while the nurses changed shifts. The machines blinked steady green now, a gentle valley after the earlier storm. Caleb pulled the plastic chair closer, his voice no louder than a prayer. "Remember the song, Ava? I don't know how I know it, but it's yours." He hummed the lullaby, ancient, haunting, as if stitched into his bones. Halfway through the second verse, a single tear tracked down Ava's cheek. Caleb froze. Then another tear fell. Nurses burst in shouting vitals. Dr. Thomas Rayner gaped at the monitor. Her neural responses just tripled. They didn't see Caleb slip out the back door, heart hammering like a drumline. Downstairs, Graham's phone rang a number masked by zeros. A mechanized voice cut through the static. $5 million by midnight, Mr. Whitmore, or every screen in America learns you've found the missing Whitmore twin. The line went dead. Graham stared at the DNA report still warm from the printer, 99.7% probability Caleb was his son. His knees buckled, but anger caught him before the floor did. Someone had sold his boy lied for 7 years and now wanted hush money. He dialed his lawyer, Dr. Peter Latham. Lock the hospital, no leaks, and find Langston now. Langston, Dr. Victor Langston, was already 2 steps ahead, tucked in the hospital's legal conference room, flanked by Latham and 2 board members. Security footage showed Caleb entering Ava's room, but the moment of contact was gone. Files wiped clean. Langston's lipstick-thin smile said he'd arranged that. "We can't afford the world discovering an illegal adoption scandal," Latham warned. "If the press connects Caleb to you before our narrative is ready, the Whitmore Foundation burns." Langston leaned forward. "Solution, keep the boy isolated. No visitors, no social media, no wandering until we decide which version of the truth serves us." Caleb, limping down the hall in search of Maggie, heard every word. Isolated. Kept. Like a stray puppy in a cage. His stomach turned colder than the January wind outside. He backed away and collided with Nurse Maggie. "Easy, champ," she whispered, steadying him. Caleb's eyes brimmed. "They're going to lock me up." Maggie's jaw tightened. "Over my dead body. Meet me at the freight stairs tonight, 2 a.m. I'll get you out." Night draped Mercy General in shadows. Most staff had gone. Only emergency lights and the occasional squeak of a rolling cart broke the silence. Caleb slipped through the freight door, bandages rustling beneath a donated hoodie. Maggie appeared, keys in hand. Suddenly, a black-suited man stepped from the dark. Caleb Rivers, his voice blended honey and threat. Behind him, a nondescript van idled with sliding door open. Caleb's flight reflex ignited. He bolted into the alley just as the man lunged. Wind knifed through the city's veins, whistling past dumpsters and broken glass. Caleb's knee screamed, but terror pushed him forward. Footfalls pounded behind, closer, until a trash lid clanged, scattering a colony of alley cats. Feral bodies tangled around the pursuer's legs. Claws flashed. The man cursed fell. Caleb didn't look back. He ducked beneath a rusted fire escape, lungs aflame, and nearly tripped over an emaciated woman coughing on the pavement. Her face, lined and hollow, seemed vaguely familiar. "Our Ruth Caldwell," he whispered, recalling Maggie's stories of a nurse who resigned after that night 7 years ago. She recognized him at once. "You have." Her eyes, she rasped. "I watched Langston take you away." Between ragged breaths, she spilled everything: twin birth forge, death certificate, money-changing hands. "Your father never knew," she cried. "I did nothing because I needed the cash." Caleb knelt beside her. "We can tell him together. Please." But a wet crimson bubble formed on her lips. One final cough and her head lolled against the brick wall. Sirens wailed in the distance, too late. Caleb pressed shaking fingers to her wrist. No pulse. The only witness willing to testify had just died in his arms. A phone buzzed near her bundle of blankets, Maggie's number flashing. Caleb answered with trembling hands. "Caleb, where are you? Ruth's gone. They tried to grab me. I can't stay here." "Listen," Maggie said. "Come back to the ER entrance. I'm still on shift. We'll figure this out together." Sirens neared. A squad car turned onto the alley's mouth, painting Caleb in red-blue strobes. He pocketed Ruth's phone and sprinted the opposite way, weaving through fire escapes until the city opened into the riverfront. The icy water slapped pilings like an executioner's drum. For a wild second, he considered jumping anything to vanish. But another memory rose, Ava's eyelid trembling, the tear on her cheek, her life answering his touch. He couldn't abandon her. Not again. Caleb inhaled, turned back toward the hospital's glow, and ran. Inside, Mercy General Graham stood outside Ava's room when Maggie burst from the elevator, breathless. "They've lost Caleb." Graham's world tilted again. "Then we'll find him," he said, voice raw, "and we'll tear down anyone who tries to hide him." At that exact moment, a short video hit social media, grainy smartphone footage leaked by an anonymous account. The caption read, "Homeless boy touches billionaire's daughter, she cries after 3 years in coma." Views skyrocketed by the second. Langston watched from a limo speeding toward O'Hare. He tossed his phone aside, cursed. Damage control was no longer an option. War had begun. Caleb pushed through the hospital service door just before dawn, soaked, shivering, determined. Somewhere above, Ava Whitmore's monitor blipped a little faster, as if sensing her twin's return. "We hate to pause just as everything's about to explode, but thanks for sticking with us through this nail-biting chapter. If you uncovered a billion-dollar cover-up, would you trust the system or expose the truth, no matter the danger? Do you believe Graham can protect both his children against a conspiracy that deep?" Right now, Caleb burst through the sliding doors of Mercy General just as the eastern sky blushed pink and gold. Soaked to the bone, he limped past orderlies and bewildered nurses, driven by a single instinct: get to Ava. Upstairs, Graham Whitmore looked up from a whirlwind of reporters waiting to ambush him outside the ICU. The sight of his son shivering, exhausted but alive, cut through the chaos. Graham rushed forward, dropping the prepared statement he'd planned to read on camera. Caleb expected anger, maybe skepticism. Instead, powerful arms gathered him into the first real embrace he could remember. It smelled of starched shirts and unfamiliar cologne, yet felt unmistakably like home. "I'm here," Caleb whispered. "I'm not running again." Neither noticed the clicking shutters or the TV lights blinking red. What the world saw in that moment wasn't scandal. It was a father and a son finally found. Maggie hurried up behind them with a thumb drive clutched like a relic. "It's Ruth's last gift," she said. Audio of Dr. Langston's payoffs, timestamp records, everything. Graham grasped it, eyes blazing. "Then let's finish this." Down in a hastily convened board meeting, Langston arrived confident, expecting to leverage Whitmore Steel's investors against Graham's newfound liability. He never saw Caleb and Maggie step from the shadows of the conference room. Graham played the recording, Langston arranging Caleb's sale and forging Ava's medical file. The board members' faces drained of color. Two quietly dialed 911. Langston lunged for the door, but security closed in. Caleb, heart-hammering, met the doctor's gaze. For the first time in 7 years, the man who'd stolen his life looked small, just another frightened adult in a white coat. "Why?" Caleb asked, voice steady. Langston opened his mouth, but no excuse survived the weight of the evidence and the weight of the boy he'd wronged. Police escorted him out, cameras rolling. Chicago's morning news anchors broke the story before Langston's badge even hit the desk. All that commotion seemed distant as Caleb re-entered Ava's room. Monitors chimed softly. Sunlight fell across her face. He took her hand, skin still cool, but no longer ghost pale. "I kept my promise," he breathed. Her eyelids fluttered. Then slowly, impossibly, they lifted. Dark brown eyes, mirror images of his own, searched the room and landed on him with quiet recognition. "Caleb." The words scraped like gravel, 3 years of silence trying to remember how to speak. "I'm here, Ava, and Dad's here too." Graham stepped forward, tears unapologetic on his cheeks. Ava's fingers tightened around her brother's. She tried to sit up, failing twice before Maggie raised the bed for her. Outside, reporters clamored, but Graham motioned to close the blinds. This moment belonged only to them. 2 days later, the family left the hospital, Ava in a wheelchair, Caleb pushing Graham beside them. News vans followed, but public sentiment had swung. Comment sections flooded with support volunteers, offered food and clothes, and donors pledged millions to the new Whitmore Foundation Fund for Missing Children that Graham announced on the steps of Mercy General. Maggie accepted a position as head of pediatric outreach. Her first order of business was locating every child Langston's ring had trafficked. Healing, though, began quietly at home. The Whitmore mansion once felt like a marble museum. Now it echoed with uncertainty and shy laughter. Caleb flinched at the touch of silk sheets. Ava struggled to walk without trembling limbs. Meals were awkward, Graham burning pancakes, Caleb knocking over orange juice, Ava giggling until she couldn't breathe. Yet each mistake stitched them closer. They set out an extra place at dinner for Ruth, placing wildflowers near her photo. On the third evening, as snow feathered the windows, Caleb retrieved a battered cardboard box from the alley, two scrawny cats he called Echo and Patch. Graham sighed at scratched leather furniture, but allowed them to stay. Home, after all, was meant to be lived in. Spring melted into Chicago's narrow streets. Ava began physical therapy, determined to surprise Caleb by racing him from one side of the garden to the other. Caleb started school discovering a gift for sketching skyscrapers in graphite and charcoal. Graham sold a controlling share of his company, redirecting profits into free clinics across Illinois. During the opening of the first Caleb Rivers Outreach Center, he told the crowd, "My children taught me that steel alone can't hold a city together, but compassion can." That night, over cocoa and burnt marshmallows in the backyard, Ava produced an envelope. Inside were two identical crescent moon charms she had designed on her laptop. "Twin scars," she said, fastening one to Caleb's wrist. "But now there are strength." Caleb blinked away sudden tears, then slipped the second charm onto her bracelet. He led her to the patio. Speakers cued the lullaby they both knew by heart, and sang only this time, Ava harmonized, voice still fragile, but steadying with every note. Graham watched from the doorway, phone buzzing with grateful messages from families reunited because of the investigation. For a fleeting second, he wondered what the former version of himself, power-hungry, grief-stricken, would think of the man now content to learn chess from his son and laugh at wheelchair races down marble halls. He decided that version no longer mattered. Later, as Ava drifted to sleep under string lights and Caleb planned his first art exhibit, a benefit sale for the foundation, they all realized the same truth: a broken story can still end beautifully if the people living it refuse to give up on one another. Thank you for staying until the very end of Caleb and Ava's journey. We have a couple of questions for you. When a family is shattered by betrayal, do you believe justice or forgiveness heals the deepest wounds? Which moment in the story touched you most, and why? We're eager to know how you feel about this tale. If you loved it, comment number 3 below. If you're still on the fence, drop number 2. And if it missed the mark, let us know with number 1. Also tell us which country you're watching from. We love seeing our audience map light up. And don't forget to hit like, tap that heart, and share the video with friends who need a reminder that every broken bond can be mended with courage and love.